My father, and I've said this before, caused a lot of pain in my life. And I likely caused pain in his life too. And this is where the shadow work comes in. 20 years ago, I would not have been able to say what I'm about to say to you right now. I would have been angry. I would have been blaming my father. I would have been the victim, you name it, because I wasn't in a space where I really understood how these dynamics work. And soul dynamics work in a bunch of different ways that we don't realize. When I say that somebody is a teacher in the negative space, that means that they have come specifically to challenge your shadow. My father came to challenge my shadow. Hi friends, welcome back to Call Cut with Angelique. I'm Angelique, and today we're going to talk about shadow work. Shadow work is something I mention all the time on my podcasts, and my husband has said to me, well, what is shadow work? What is shadow work? So today we're going to go deep into it. And one of the things that I picked up as a result of this is this book that I have had for years called Dark Nights of the Soul by Thomas More. This is one of the most amazing books I have ever come across. I bought this probably when I was 25 years old. It's beat to all holy hell. I've written in it. I've underlined stuff. I've folded pages. I mean, I have beat this thing to death. But the reason I love this book so much is he really goes deep into the shadow and why those dark nights and going into the darkness of our own being is super important for our enlightenment. If we understand that everything works in polarity and through contrast, and we understand that we have to understand the dark in order for us to understand and therefore embody the light. If not, we do all of this under false pretense, meaning we get unhealed healers, we get people who preach a lot, but they don't really know or can embody what they're preaching. And that becomes disingenuous. And people who are watching those people, following those people, or listening to those people who are really seeking to elevate their consciousness can't do it because the information that they're getting is surface level and it's ego driven. It's not coming from actually sitting in the dark and sitting with yourself and going to these places of irony and trying to discover, why do I do that? Why do I react to people that way? Why do I find myself in the same negative feedback loop over and over and over? Now, this is a question that we will ask ourselves continuously as we go on this journey. And this is part of the journey. We are not all in our perfect selves out of the gate. We have to refine this machine. We have to master our minds. We have to get to a point where we are truly who we say we are because we have lived through those dark nights of the soul. Now, one of the things about shadow work that people get scared of is facing the true self. If you've ever watched The Never-Ending Story, which is one of my favorite movies, one of the gates that he comes up against is where you have to face your true self. And one of the most beautiful, brilliant lines is where he said, kind men find that they are really cruel. Brave men find that they are really weak. And most men run screaming. And this is so interesting because if you really dig deep into what that is trying to tell you, it is trying to tell you that how we see ourselves is not always accurate because we create a story around who we are. And that story comes from our childhood, our traumas, our dramas, bloodline entanglements, reversals, inversions, all these things that we're dealing with in the earthly plane. And it becomes hard to become successful at anything if we do not face our shadow. Because our shadow is going to keep getting in the way. It's going to keep dancing around until we finally grab it like Peter Pan and integrate it and, pin it onto us and be like, okay, you are part of me. I am darkness and I am light and I am everything in between. And the reason that is important is because we have to be able to accept all parts of our being in order to come to self-mastery, which is ultimately self-love and self-acceptance. You can't be in the self-love space if you do not accept all the parts of you that need healing and attention. So I'm going to break this down into specific examples so you can understand it a little easier. People will always say things like, why do I attract the same kind of people? Why do I always lose my job? Can't I get into the room with people that I want to be in the room with? And this has to do with your stories and the things that you tell yourself. But you can't get in deep with those stories unless you're willing to look at yourself from a wildly different perspective. You have to look at yourself from an accountability perspective. And this is something a lot of people run from. What part did you play in this? And this is how you move out of the victim narrative and you move into the powerful co-creator narrative. Anytime you have a conflict, anytime you have a situation that makes you feel ick, You have to look at that situation from a 35,000-foot view and ask yourself, why do I feel like this? What am I participating in this particular scenario that keeps trapping me in the same loop time and time again? Because that's ultimately what happens. We get trapped time and time again in the same loop because we refuse to look at the parts of ourselves that need to be healed. And what do? Because we're ultimately actors in this huge stage called Earth. We play out the same roles over and over and over again until our soul learns the lesson. So why not be an overachiever and just dig down deep into that shadow work and get to work? So what is the shadow? What is the shadow work? So the shadow work, it's our dark side, but not dark side in the way that it's narcissistic, evil, or ego driven. That's not what it is. It's the parts of ourselves that need healing. The parts of ourselves that are in the shadow, the parts that we can't see day to day. Think of it as an operating system, right? And the subconscious mind is the operating system. You don't necessarily know the program that is running in the background. You know that you're just doing it. I have had so many interesting conversations where people would say to me, well, I don't really know why I do that, but I do that. Or I don't really know why I reacted like that. Because when I thought about it later, it wasn't really that big a deal. That's the shadow. The shadow is running that program. And you don't want your shadow to eclipse your sun. You want them to always kind of remain in balance. Like if you've ever seen a yin yang, right? And a yin yang is dark and light with a little bit of dark in the light and a little bit of light in the darkness. And that's the most beautiful thing to show you that the law of polarity, right? Is that we have darkness within light and light within darkness. They must coexist. The earth has day and night. Everything reveals itself through contrast. And so in order for us to be in a space where we can truly embody our positive and light self, we have to do that work. We have to psychoanalyze ourselves in this way that is not quite clinical, but more spiritual. Really looking at ourselves and saying, why do I feel that way? Why do I do that? What is it in me that I'm missing or that I'm feeling? Like, why am I angry? What is this making me think of? Is there another place in time where I had this very same experience and I'm just reacting off of that because I never really healed that initial key moment? That is what we need to look at. Anger does not just come out of nowhere. We've all heard the word triggered a million times. I think triggered's become like a buzzword. Oh, that triggered me. Oh, that triggered me. Well, what does triggered mean? It means that it flipped something on inside you, and that thing that got turned on, when you're triggered, it's because, again, something within hasn't quite been healed and it needs to come to the surface, or you need to go to the depths. When we talk about mythology, we talk about going into the underworld. The underworld is the world of the shadow. It's the parts of our psyche that maybe aren't so wonderful or so great. And we all have it. We all have dark thoughts. People who say, well, I never. Come on, folks. This is again where you have to be real with yourself. Being real with yourself is admitting your flaws. It's admitting when you're wrong, and it's taking accountability for hurting people. Even if you did it unconsciously, you have to take accountability. You have to look at all sides of a situation and say to yourself, what part did I play? I just had a recent situation with my biological father. My biological father passed away. And unfortunately, we did not end on fantastic terms, at least from what I understand. I had a conversation with him in 2021 that I thought was a peaceful kind of resolution. We were on the phone for an hour and a half, but through the grapevine, I heard that he was pretty miffed with me pretty much till the end of his life because he had told a story about my participation and where he was in his life. And it was not true. Okay. But it was a story that he told. And he told that story to himself because my father, God rest his soul, could never take accountability for anything that he did in his life. He was always looking for the scapegoat. It was my mother, then it was his lover and mistress, then it was another lover and mistress, then it was me and my brother. And the blame would always shift to somebody else. He was never able to say, I did this. It was me. And that is because he didn't do the shadow work. Now, I want to say something about this because I want to be very clear. My father, and I've said this before, caused a lot of pain in my life, okay? And I likely caused pain in his life too. And this is where the shadow work comes in. 20 years ago, I would not have been able to say what I'm about to say to you right now. I would have been angry. I would have been blaming my father. I would have been the victim, you name it, because I wasn't in a space where I really understood how these dynamics work. And soul dynamics work in a bunch of different ways that we don't realize. When I say that somebody is a teacher in the negative space, that means that they have come specifically to challenge your shadow. Okay. My father came to challenge my shadow, and he did a great job. And I'm going to get choked up on this, but I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for my father. Okay. And I mean that. And I'm talking about where I am in my soul, where I am in my work, because everything that he facilitated put me at a crossroads. And it was a crossroad that I could either become like him and take no accountability and be the victim and blame everything on my life, good, bad, or indifferent, on my childhood. Or I could take the road less traveled and take accountability for my choices and my actions and the way I see the world and how I've chosen to move through the world. Well, let me tell you, folks, this is a pivotal moment. And if you look in your life, you're going to find there's people like this who challenge you, right? The teachers in the negative space, they do. And when they challenge you, this is where your soul is really stepping into its own mastery. Are they challenging you to become a victim and to play the same old story? Or are they challenging you to look at things very differently, to see yourself through a full spectrum, the negative and the positive, the good, the bad, the ugly, you name it? We have to make sure that we're looking at all of it, not just the parts we like or the public facing or the parts of us that we want people to adore. People will adore you, especially when you're unapologetically you, because we're all just seeking to be unapologetically us. We just want to be loved. And this shadow work goes deep because shadow work is the searching for love where the lotus grows in the mud. We're searching for the parts of us that we believe we can't love. And we're bringing them in the surface to be healed. And we say, I love you regardless of this, this, and this. So now back to my father. My father did a lot of things, which I'm not going to get into here. That being said, he did what's called backloading karma. Okay. Backloading karma means that you are paying back your karma for all the things that you did on the negative side of the polarity spectrum in this life. My father backloaded his karma. And in that way, that tells me that he's a very high level soul. We like to demonize people who have hurt us and people who have caused us great trauma. And this is a human reaction, right? Because humans seek that eye for an eye. But that's not quite how the law of cause and effect works. Eye for an eye isn't really a thing when it comes to cause and effect. It's literally what the soul's journey is and what the soul is here to learn. So yes, that person will get back what they put out, but it will come in the form that is best for that soul to learn its lessons here. And the same for you. If you meet that pain with pain, you will continuously cause pain. If you meet that pain with understanding, compassion, empathy, and love, you will break free of that loop. And that is why the shadow work becomes so important. My dad triggered me to go on that journey into the shadow. I had to start facing things because I saw it in him. And he was a mirror. And I thought I could either be the victim and constantly put myself in a situation where I'm having things happen to me, or I could pull my power back. And I pulled my power back. Now, what I was saying before about my dad backloading his karma, ultimately, he caused a lot of pain in my life. He did. He, and not just my life. He caused a lot of pain for a lot of people, mostly himself. Okay? Because again, when people act out in these ways, it's because deep, deep down, they do not feel worthy of love. And I know it sounds trivial, friends, but it really is that simple. We are all here to find our way back to love, but you can't find your way back to the light if you don't step into the shadow. The shadow is where all of that magic happens. The shadow is where you're really going to uncover who you are. You're going to find your power. You're going to transmute your pain. You're going to alchemize all of the traumas that happened in your life, and you're going to use it for something that's more powerful if you choose. If you choose not to go there and you choose to just full speed ahead, you can do that too. This is all your journey, but you will find yourself stuck in the same patterns over and over and over again until you are willing to face your shadow. My dad didn't necessarily face his shadow, but he did backload his karma. He lost his family, he lost his fortune, he lost his freedom, he lost his health, and he ultimately lost his life. That is the ultimate karmic payback, right? The law of cause and effect in action. And why did it happen in that way to him? There are people who go lifetimes and lifetimes before that cause and effect comes back because he was an elevated soul. Elevated souls front load karma and backload karma. They front load it and they backload it because they want to get done with it and they want to move to the next thing. Well, what he ultimately did was give me a gift. And the gift is power. The people that take your power away are giving you a gift. Even right now, as we look at the world around us and everything that's collapsing, we're having our power taken from us. But this is because we are supposed to find it. We are supposed to dig deep, go deep, deep down into our shadow, find out who we really are, and become that with which they are trying to suppress. So it's fascinating how this entire reality is playing out on this grand scale where certain groups of people are exerting power. This is humanity on a grand scale having to face our shadow, face the fact that we are destructive. We are supposed to stand in our shadow right now and look at this world we have created and say, holy good God, what have we done? When you really open your eyes to what's going on in the world, as within, so without, this is because deep within the human consciousness, we are divided. We are angry, we are traumatized, we are lonely, we are lacking love, and we want to destroy anything or anyone that has a different consciousness than we do. This is a test to get out of that. And we do the work individually. So for me, and I could only use myself as an example, I went through my own personal hell and I chose to do the shadow work. And I've said this a million times that I love the shadow work. It's not fun by any stretch of the imagination. You are looking at parts of your personality that aren't the best. You are having to really examine situations where you may not have been acting out of your best self. You have to look at other situations where you come to a crossroads and you have to make a choice. And is that choice, and I have talked about this on another podcast episode, in alignment with higher will? And higher will is always in alignment with God's will. Or is it in alignment with lower will? And for those of you that find that language a little confusing, it's basically, are you in alignment with the golden rule, or are you in alignment with the narcissistic, selfish tendencies? That's really it. When you make a choice, is that choice for you, good for you and the good of other human beings? Or is that choice only good for you to the detriment of other human beings? Those are the two paths. Okay? Service to self, service to others. Another way to think of it. I use this as an example to say I was able to heal myself through the shadow work with the help of my father, who was my teacher in the negative space in this life. And here's the other part, and this is the hardest. When you can get to a point, not only of forgiveness for these people for what they have done to you, but also appreciation and respect for the part that they played in your evolution, you have now taken yourself up the next level. Let's wrap this all back around into how do we put this in our everyday life, and how does this affect my success, my ability to make money, my ability to network, my ability to... It affects everything, friends. Make no mistake, what you carry goes into every single room with you. When your energy is clogged, when your energy is running these old programs, people pick it up, people feel it. They may not trust you. They may not like you. You can't figure out why. What have you done? And you haven't really done anything except you're running a program, and that program is attached to a belief, and that belief is running your energy constantly. And people are picking up on your energy because we are energetic beings, and that's pretty much how we communicate. The mouth can say one thing, but the energy never lies. It's how you can walk into a room and talk to somebody, and you're like, oh, yeah, why do I feel like this person isn't telling me the truth? Why do I feel like this person isn't telling me the truth? Okay. How many times have you said, well, I had a feeling that they weren't being honest, or I had a feeling that this wasn't good for me? Energy. That's the feeling. It's everywhere. It's how we communicate. And truthfully, we could communicate telepathically. We wouldn't even need language, which ironically, we would never have honesty problems if we were telepathically communicating, right? Because we wouldn't have the barrier of manipulation, which is language. Language allows us to manipulate people. Your energy doesn't. So, how this all affects your business, your personal, your love life is when you don't do the shadow work, you're constantly projecting, you're constantly running storylines. You may be in relationships where you are somebody who has caused pain to your partner, but because you haven't done the shadow work and really looked at yourself and tried to figure out what parts of your personality need to be adjusted and healed, you're projecting your pain onto another person, and that person is taking it on and not wanting to. And so you have conflict, and then the relationship ends and you say, oh my goodness, this person didn't understand me, or whatever the situation is. And it repeats. Then you go on to the next relationship, and the next relationship has a similar problem. Or when you go for a job and you can't seem to hold down a job, and you say, why can't I hold down a job? I don't understand. Now some things are out of your control, right? People do layoffs, that happens. There's nothing you can do in those situations. Or sometimes you get a job that's temporary. But let's say you are working and you always find that you have issues with your coworkers. Why do you always have issues with your coworkers, right? What is it? Why do you need to control them? Do you need to control people? Because that's a thing. If you're constantly trying to exert your power over people, it's because you feel powerless. Boom, go back down to the shadow. That's your shadow. That's how it shows up. People who are bossy, people who like to tell people what to do, control, 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 shadow. People who feel out of control try to control other people. Inferiority versus superiority. When you walk into a room and somebody seems elitist or they're better than someone else, whoop, red flag, shadow, inferiority complex. Inferiority rules superiority. Otherwise, you would just walk into the room and be cool because you feel comfortable in your own skin. So what the shadow does is the shadow forces you to look at these parts of your personality and say, why do we do that? And how do we heal it so we could get back to self-love? Because self-love is ultimately how we get to love, unconditional. We cannot unconditionally love if we do not love ourselves. We cannot love ourselves if we do not heal ourselves. We cannot heal ourselves if we do not forgive ourselves, and we can't forgive ourselves unless we are willing to go deep into the shadow and find the pain points and find the trauma points, and to really look at those things in our personality and face it and say, even though I felt this way, I love and respect myself. And actually, if we want to take that one step deeper, I forgive, I love, and I accept myself. It's not easy to do, and we have to do it continuously. Again, this is where the call cut method comes in, because the call cut method puts you in a position to call cut all day long. Every single time you call cut on yourself, you heal faster. That's why I personally love the method, because it helps you. Yes, go to therapy. Absolutely. Yes, go take a course. Absolutely. But outside of those times that you're with people and outside of those times that you're actually doing the work, what else are you doing? Because in order for the brain to really change those patterns, it has to have consistency, and it has to be consistently reprogrammed with a different thought. And that takes about 3 months before the neuroplasticity sets in and that belief system kicks in, and the belief and the energy behind the belief. There's a lot to this machine. But once you get the hang of this machine and you understand that every single thing that happens into your life has happened for a reason, it's challenging you or encouraging you. It's doing one of two things. I do suggest, if you are interested, to buy this book, Dark Night of the Soul by Thomas More. It's really, really interesting. And you don't have to read it cover to cover. You can just skip to the parts that resonate with you, but it will also help you understand the shadow a little bit deeper and why it's important to go through these parts of our lives that feel like total shit, where we're like, why does it feel like everything is coming at us? You are a brave soul. If you have come here and you are dealing with all of this stuff, it is because you have chosen to really work through those things in this lifetime. And the universe is saying, okay, here we are. Let's do it. We're going to give you this scenario. We're going to give you this parent. We're going to give you this lover. We're going to give you this experience. And you're like, oh my God, sweet Jesus, please make it stop. And you can make it stop as soon as you're willing to dive into the shadow and do the work and face the parts of you that need to be healed. We all have these parts, and they consistently get in our way. They prevent us from finding the love, the peace, and the happiness that we so desperately are searching for because we are operating on these old systems. The minute we are able to find the system, look at it, analyze it, and then reprogram it, we step up a little bit higher. We step closer and closer to our highest timeline and to be in alignment with our highest and best self. It is walking up a ladder, if you could imagine, right? Ascension isn't you're here and you just ascend right to the top. No, it's a process and we have to go through it. And we have to wrangle ourselves. I can tell you, I went through a range of emotions after my father passed away. Everything from anger to rage to grief to depression to sadness to peace to acceptance to happiness for him, wishing him well, being angry at him. I mean, oh my goodness, I was on the roller coaster. I mean, holy good God, up, down, left, right, polarity, ping, ping, ping. I was bouncing back and forth and back and forth. I was going from finding peace to being upset all over the place. It is human to do that, friends. It is human. We are on a journey. And people say we're getting to a destination. No, we are constantly evolving. Everything in the universe is evolving. It doesn't just stop. Look at the planet. Did the planet stop? Does it stop growing? Does it stop evolving? Does it stop changing? No, it does not. We are constantly moving. We are constantly evolving, creating, becoming a different form of ourselves. We are here to find that highest and best parts of ourselves and really project that and put our best foot forward. Because when we heal ourselves, we heal other people. We heal people's hearts by healing our own heart. It's amazing. If you really understood how we are all one, you would see that the heartbreak of one is the heartbreak of all. And I think we do see that, right? Let's be honest. We hear stories every single day that are heartbreaking. And we can all get on board with that heartbreak when we see genocide, when we see violence and corruption. We feel our hearts break because those are attacks on our heart consciousness. We feel it. And we collectively feel it. You watch something and you start to cry. But the opposite is always true. You can watch something that brings you to tears for a different reason because there's unity, because there's love, because there's empathy, because there's compassion, because people are doing the work to heal their egos. They're doing the work to heal their hearts. And that's where the shadow comes. In the Call Cut program, I will go through step by step how to do the shadow work. And there's tons of books on this, and you can Google this, and I'm sure at this point, talk to AI. The point is, it's looking at the parts of you that need to be healed and consistently going after that in a positive way. Look at yourself as a nurturing parent. You do not become critical. You don't beat yourself up because that just keeps you trapped. Again, you don't want to get stuck in the lower parts of this. You want to be able to move fluidly, to really see yourself through the eyes of compassion. When you're able to do that for yourself, you are able to do that for every human being you come across in your life. And when I tell you your life will get better, it will. You will not harbor pain. You will not harbor resentment. You will not harbor anger. You will not harbor revenge. You will let those things go because you understand something much greater. You understand something outside of yourself, and you understand that really love is all there is. This is simply a way that love expresses itself through polarity. And I want to read this to you. This is actually on the back of the book because I think this is so incredibly brilliant to sum this up. He says every human life is made up of the light and the dark, the happy and the sad, the vital and the deadening. How you think about this rhythm of moods makes all the difference. Every single day, you get to choose. You get to choose how you are going to interpret every single thing that happens to you. I chose to interpret the situation with my dad from a very different perspective than I did the first time I met him. Wildly different perspective. I was not able to look at my father through the eyes of love and compassion the way I am now. And my story is not for the faint of heart. I have people who know my story tell me all the time, I can't believe you forgive this guy. But I do. Not only do I forgive my father, but I appreciate him on a level that I may not be able to fully express. But I know that people out there who know. It's the most important thing that we will ever do is to offer true forgiveness to people who have hurt us, and it is not easy. I also have compassion for people who are not ready for that step, who aren't ready to really look at that part of them and say, I'm ready to heal this. This is a journey, and everybody is at a different part. All of life is a choice, and it is how you choose to see it. You can meet your experiences with love, compassion, and empathy. You can meet your experiences with apathy. You could meet your experiences with hatred, revenge, resentment. It's totally up to you. And how your life will play out will be in accordance to what you choose. So choose wisely, because sometimes when we let our pain speak, we lose our power. Honoring the parts of ourselves that are not necessarily the parts we love as much as the others is how we heal our heart. It's how we truly see ourselves from the full perspective of who we are as a soul, what we're here to learn, and how we're here to share our light with others. It's a journey that you have to take, but we're all walking a path, and we're all going on this journey together. When you choose to do the shadow work, you take your power back. You put the power in your hands. You say, I am going to heal myself, and as a result, that will heal the collective. If we want to live in a world where peace, compassion, and empathy reign supreme, then we have to be the light that brings those things to the world. And we do that by embodying those things every single day and making the choice to show up in our highest and best self. Thank you so much for joining me on Call Cut with Angelique. New episodes drop every Friday. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share with your friends. And remember, folks, no matter what life gives you, you must always keep shining.